To our apologies this evening. So do we have any apologies to submit? Any? Great. Anyone would like to move that Joe is an apology? Thank you, Philip. And a seconder?
Happy to second.
Great. All those in favour?
Aye.
Fantastic. On to disclosure of members' interests. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to disclose this evening? No. Okay. In that case, we shall move on to our public forum. So tonight we have a couple of speakers with us, which is really excellent. Bruce Casey is representing the Cambridge Model Engineering Society this evening. Bruce, would you like to join us at the table? So that's your microphone. Bruce, you probably know most of us here at the table, but yeah, very lucky.
Should have a name tag.
Yeah, you'll have your own little thing next time, hey. So Bruce is presenting to us on his about the Leamington Domain Master Plan.
That's one.
Yeah, we've got 5 minutes to hear from you tonight, Bruce, if that's great. And we've obviously got staff who are also with us tonight to hear from you at the same time. And then we will be speaking, actually looking at this in our agenda later tonight as well. So it's a great opportunity for you to speak to us.
Okay. Yeah, first of all, we'd just like to, as part of the Cambridge Model Club, thank you for the donation towards a new train. That's very much appreciated. I know we've got a long way to go, but anything helps. So yeah, thank you very much. So basically, we're just going through, I've had a few discussions with 3 or 4 different groups and with the council about what's going to happen with the Leamington Domain. You'll see on the picture in front of you, you'll see the red circle and the 2 red squares. Now, basically, that's where the track is at the moment, and the red squares, one is our storage unit and the other one is our steaming bay garage there. What the council are proposing to do is basically take that red part out in those 2 red buildings and move them over to the green on the right hand side there. So I mean, it's been discussed. There's a few different points we need to look at. There's one of them's the money side of it. One of them is the practicality on how it would work. To be honest, as a train club, we would like to keep it as is if that's possible. But I mean, things change, and if we have to change, well, yeah, we'll do our best to work with the council and try and get the best solution. You know, the less track we find as a train club, the more track you have, the more enjoyment people get out of it. So that's one thing. Another thing we did have was the way the cycle track had been designed right next to the track. As you'll see, there's a white line right next to the track. Now, from our point of view as running trains, you know, children riding, so even adults riding bikes next to a train track, I think it's a recipe for disaster, to be honest. You know, if a child falls or even an adult falls in front of a train, there's major implications for everyone at the end of the day. And the other thing too, in the green area where the proposed steaming bay would be, trains need a certain curve on a track to be able to go round. And the way, and I know this is just a draft copy, but the way it's being done, it physically wouldn't work for a train to get round there. Parking also would become an issue with people coming from other clubs bringing their trains in on trailers, vans, stuff like that. They need a turnaround area for these vehicles. And also we would have to change the steaming bay as we have it now would have to be completely redesigned. And the other thing too, it's probably more than anything, it's the knowledge of having people. I mean, Alan was one of the original people that designed the track and built the track. Now he's probably one of the last able-bodied members that could put his 2 cents worth in. I haven't been there, you know, I've been with it 6 years now, but when it comes to designing tracks, that's not my forte at all. Alan knows about, you know, from digging it up to what needs to go underneath to what angles the track needs to be, all this sort of thing. I don't think it's something that you can just put out to a company and say, hey, we want you to build this. So there needs to be, if it is going to change, there needs to be someone like Alan involved and myself also to work out the practicality of actually being able to put the track. You know, if the council do want to put the buildings there and change the track, yeah, that's more or less what we need.
Great, thank you, Bruce. I'm just going to open it to the board for questions, if that's okay. Any questions from you guys for Bruce?
Not a question, but it's obviously very paramount that what you guys there when anything gets changed around, designed and everything like that, you guys are there with your input, because with respect to everybody, the staff and everybody, we don't have any ideas about the train.
Look, as I say, I'm in exactly the same boat. I've been with them about roughly 6 years now. So when it comes to, I know about trains, how they work, but there's so many different trains and there's so many different setups and lengths and sizes. So you can only put, certain trains can only go on a certain curve on a track. So you think, oh, every train can go on there. Well, it can't. So you need, there is a lot of work involved. And even to the point of the steaming bay, we have a little 12-volt system hooked up there as well. So there's power, water, all that sort of stuff that you need when people bring their steam locomotives in to get them what they call steamed up. So I've got to heat them up. They need 12-volt DC to run little fans to get them up to speed and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's quite a bit involved in it at the end of the day.
Yeah, Bruce, I attend your train rides on monthly Saturdays, and you bring so many people to the park, it's not funny. So I think we definitely got to make sure you're heard and those sort of considerations taken on board. I just have a question. Are you involved at all with the model trains in any way? And
no, we're not. So we're complete separate entity. So that the tiny little trains in the building, we're this is us, that's them. We're sort of working together so that the community knows that when we're running, they're running and vice versa. And that's just sort of the way we do it. But yeah, we've got nothing to do with them at all, and they've got nothing to do with us at all.
They've got an aspiration here for a bigger building and hub-like activity. So yeah, it could tie in a little bit perhaps. Yeah.
I mean, they do a fantastic job in there, and you'll find when we're busy, they're busy. I'll go and see Paul, and he said, if you guys are, he goes, oh, it's been a busy day. And I said, we've had heaps of people. So yeah. All right.
Was this a surprise to you when you guys saw this, or were you involved
all
the way through?
Yeah, I've sort of been involved with it. To be fair, I've had about 3 or 4 different chats online with, sort of different people in different groups. I was told about this, and I sort of got to the point where after the third one, I sort of said, well, okay, we don't really want that done. But at the end of the day, if that's what you guys are planning, we sort of need to sort something out and working together. So, I was talking to a few different people, and to be fair, some of them I spoke to early on, I don't even know if they've ever been to Leamington Domain. That's what it felt like to me. I was sort of dealing with people that was, I think it was one lady in Auckland the first time. And so, yeah, there was no, I was asked about stuff, but I felt like I wasn't heard. It was like, oh yeah, we can do that. And then it's sort of, yeah. So, but as I say, it is what it is. It'd be fantastic to leave it like it is. But if it has to change, everything changes worldwide. We just have to make it work somehow.
Thank you, Bruce. Hibby, any other questions? I just had one question about the parking you referenced.
Yep.
For other clubs bringing in their steamers.
Yep.
So with the relocation of the steaming bay essentially to where the old skating rink is.
That's right. Yep.
Am I right in understanding there would no longer be adjacent parking? So how do you get your trains from a trailer?
Yeah, that's the thing. So
that would be a significant. So currently they can come up that car park off Scott Street and unload directly. Do you lift them?
No, they come. So they basically come in the back of a vehicle or on a trailer.
Yep.
So you basically come in, you back up. We have a big machine on wheels that you move side to side with tracks, and it can go up and down. So then you wheel it out. I mean, some of these things are like half a ton.
Yeah, I didn't think you lifted them. So you do need adjacent parking for that steaming bay.
Yeah,
and
you do.
currently the master plan is not catering to
No,
that
I mean,
specific.
it's got to drive into it, but
Oh, it's
the way
got a
I look
driveway,
at it, yeah,
okay.
there is an area that's been designated
Yeah.
drive-in.
Yeah,
To me,
but you need turnaround space
you
for
need
trailers.
turnaround space.
Okay.
There's not many people that can back a trailer in a gap like that. And the
Yeah.
thing is too, if people are all parked along the road,
Yeah,
you're
Yeah.
never going to get in.
yeah, no, that's really, those
Mm.
sorts of specifics are really helpful for us. Thank
Yep.
you, Bruce, that's great.
No worries.
Any other questions, anyone? Thank you. We
Thank you very much.
love what you guys do and we value what you guys do. And we appreciate you coming along tonight and we'll be speaking to it later in this meeting, which you're welcome to stay for. Staff will be here speaking to us, but of course, we can always follow you up and you'll be able to see our submission on when
Yeah.
it's public as
And
well.
as I say, yeah, we're putting a submission ourselves.
Great. Yep,
I wrote one out the other night, but it's with a lady that knows about submissions. So
Yeah.
she's just checking it and.
Yeah, cool.
dotting
Fantastic.
T's and I's.
So just with regards to the submissions, it's really great to be able to, when you submit, to come along and speak to it. You have an opportunity, just like you are now,
Yep.
a few minutes, to speak on it. Don't just submit it and.
At the council meeting, you mean?
Not show up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Come along and you'll have an opportunity to submit it and talk.
Speak to your submission
Yeah,
then.
no worries. As I say, we put it out on the weekend just to get people down on Facebook, just so people knew what's going on. So everyone's in the loop.
It's great.
Councillors ask you questions and things
Yeah.
like that.
No problem.
May ask you questions.
Yeah, no worries.
So come on.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Great. Next up, we have Ruth Strawbridge, also speaking to the Leamington Domain today. Welcome, Ruth. You'll just need to press the talk button, make sure that's working there for you. Ruth, might not have met everybody here at this table before? A few? So I'm Elise Badger for the Cambridge ward. We've got Alana Mackay, Sue Milner, also for the Cambridge ward. You obviously know each other. Mike Montgomery, who's our council rep from the Maungatautari ward. We've got Andrew, who's our board from the Maungatautari ward. We've got Philip Coles, also a council rep from Cambridge ward. Gary brings his deep knowledge of council to the table for us, which is very helpful. And Kieran is our governance officer. So that is who we are, and we'd love to hear from you tonight.
Well, I'm very last minute. I got involved because my neighbour Pip Wallace said, have you seen, about 10 days ago, have you seen the master plan for the Leamington Domain? They want to move the toilets outside our place. I said, no, I haven't, but I came in and got a big copy because I couldn't read it online. So she's put in a big submission, I think that she sent it to you, and I've sent in something, and I said on mine that I'd happy to speak at the council meeting, and I'm known for speaking fast. I have written quite a bit, so I'm going to try and go through it. Sue, I saw Sue yesterday and she said come to the community board meeting and speak, and I wasn't planning on that. Mine starts off, I live opposite, so I see the domain all the time. I see the activity on there probably as much as anybody else in Cambridge, I reckon. I know who uses the loos, who goes wherever, what. Can tell you what time the tradies go into the loos. That's all, man, just on record almost, because my kitchen's there and I can see what's going on. I've also been over and talked to parents at the new Terry Kame playground there to get their view on what they thought was good in the area, and to the Thornton Road one. And as a granny, I've been in a number of playgrounds all throughout New Zealand, so I've seen a lot of playgrounds. I started off with this, if it isn't broken, don't replace. I didn't think we had enough money to dig up the entire Leamington Domain and replant it and do the train track again. These guys, I've said, these guys, the Leamington Model Engineering Club, I'm not sure if that's your name, but that's what I've named you. It's completely run by volunteers and been providing fun and activities for the Cambridge community and surrounds since I wrote 2012, but Alan could tell me if it's different. They provide so much fun and activities for families and groups. These people need to be appreciated for all their effort for the community. So I'm going along with them. Please don't dig up their tracks. And Paul Murphy, I've been in and spoken to them in the Greater Waikato Railways Modelers Incorporated. They want to be left where they are because I think in this plan, Paul told me, that in the new building, they're being asked to pack up and unpack their trains every time they want to go there. But these guys go in and out all week. You know, they meet there, not just on the days they're open to the public. I'm just not sure how that will happen. And the other thing I think might happen is their wives won't want them back in their garages. Because that's where they came from. So the other thing was these toilets. I was part of discussing with the community board and council when they were looking at doing it, because they were going to put them under the trees. And I thought, oh my goodness, no, because people picnic under those rhododendron trees all the time. And they're a huge asset to the park. Like I went to Terry Came and the mother's saying, but we've got a shade thing, but there's no trees. You know, I mean, you can't beat what the trees are in the Leamington Domain. No money can replace those. So I've spoken to quite a few other people about those toilets, and the consensus of about 40 people I've spoken to is that they would be better on the Tennyson side of the Band Rotunda, off Wordsworth Street, because Wordsworth Street is the main thoroughfare down to the dog park and the cemetery, and there's no loos. It's much wider than Scott Street, and what I don't understand is, and I'm wondering if somebody's actually looked at it, because the default parking for that park is Wordsworth Street. Yet they've decided to put the parking in Scott Street, which is very narrow and a tiny verge. It just didn't make any sense to me. So that was the main thing. If that's possible, move those. Angle parking along Wordsworth Street, not straight on, because too difficult for most people. That's in there. And the things that I think this park needs is a water fountain, absolutely essential. I've only been asking the council for 5 years, and Alan's probably been asking them for 10, because there's water there beside the barbecue. And it's just like there is no water fountain. People have to take their own liquids there, throw out plastic bottles. I thought we were trying to recycle and be environmentally friendly. I'm sorry, I'm sounding like a crappy old lady.
There was an offer from the Cambridge Rotary Club a few years ago to supply a water tap.
And what happened?
It was declined.
Not by me or Alan.
No, but
Well, it needs to be done ASAP. We're going to have a long, hot, dry summer, and there's no water there for kids, dogs, adults, anybody except a tap. And so that's, I think, one of the main things. It may be some more seating area and decent rubbish bins, so that the park is so well utilised. I mean, they could have just stuck a couple more bins in, so the stuff's not lying all over the ground every weekend. And me and Pip have to go and pick it up. And our concern is that you might be wanting us to check the loos that are getting vandalised. Is that our job too? That's what Pip's thinking. Do they expect us to go out and check the vandals out there?
No, definitely not. Thank you, Ruth. That is really helpful, and it's so insightful to have feedback from people who literally are the eyes and ears of the domain, because no designer can possibly replicate your on the ground knowledge. So we really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ruth? Yes, Andrew.
Yeah, hi Ruth. In the process, did you attend a consultation at the domain to get your ideas in at that stage?
At the beginning in April, yeah. And I went back the other day and spoke to Hannah the other day.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yep.
When there's any been, activity
just
to
like
go, I
another
do go.
process.
No, I don't just come and say it doesn't
But
work.
Why that idea hasn't translated to the design?
I don't know.
That's my question.
Okay.
Anybody else? Questions for Ruth? Okay. Thank you, Ruth. That's really helpful. We appreciate your time. Fantastic. All right. Don't need to move that, do we? Nope. Okay. Thank you for attending the public forum. We really appreciate your time. You're very welcome to remain for the rest of our meeting. We'll move on to the rest of our agenda now, but thank you. Okay, fantastic. Right, we're going to move on to confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. The recommendation is that the Cambridge Community Board confirms the meetings of the minutes, the minutes of the meeting held 20th September 2023 as circulated with the agenda as a true and correct record of proceedings. Does anybody have any comments or amendments they would like to make to the minutes? Yeah, typo. Yes, feel free.
Just a little one under the public forum, Cambridge Safer Community Trust. The Safer's got a G in it.
Oh, Safeguard. Oh, Sager, the Cambridge Sager Community Trust. Okay, cool. Thank you, Alana. Anybody else? Okay, would someone like to move that we, with that amendment, do we need to write a new resolution? Okay, with amendments. Would
Happy
someone
to
like to
move.
move that? Thank you, Lana. Anybody seconding? Thank you, Andrew. All those in favour? I moved and carried. Fantastic. Okay. All right. That takes us on to the draft Leamington Domain Master Plan, for which we have a number of recommendations and a lot of public opinion to consider as we think about this tonight. We also have some staff with us. Please come join us at the table. Are you guys okay sharing a microphone? Sorry.
We're okay.
We can share this.
Okay.
Yeah, we just happy to take any questions. I think just here to support you as you get through this.
Fantastic. Cool. Okay. So we can take the report as read. I assume everyone has had a deep dive into that very complex and detailed document. In which case, I'll open it to the floor for questions for the staff with us, and then we'll talk from there.
Can we deal with the issues that have been raised in the public forum first? Just your thoughts on that? The model railway particularly, and the toilet locations.
Yeah, for sure. I'll pass over to Bonnie to provide some clarification on or response to some of the things that were raised there, because she's been part of the process throughout the whole time.
Yeah, hi. So I think, so just addressing some of those points that were brought up. Not too happy to hear that Bruce didn't feel particularly heard. I think what he meant by talking to various people was the various people in our project group. So our planner, landscape architect, who all kind of were trying to piece together the story of the club and what they were after. Certainly didn't want him to feel that we weren't listening to what he had to say, because we really did want to work constructively with that, with the club, and acknowledge it as a key feature of the domain. And I think also there was a point raised about the multi-purpose building that they think that they'll need to pack up the tables each time, but that's not what we're proposing. We want to allow enough space for the club to operate.
Bonnie, it might help. I wrote down some of the points he brought up, just so you don't have to remember everything he said. Obviously they're reducing the size of the track to accommodate the multi-purpose building, which in their mind reduces the enjoyment factor. The other thing they talked about was the learn to ride track. Learn to ride area being too close to the track, and the parking. Third issue was the parking for bringing in other steam engines, with, as he mentioned, sufficient turnaround space. And the other thing, which we can speak to later, was just, do we know if the engineers for this job exist and are affordable? Those are the 4 points. If you wanted to speak to that, perhaps that.
Yes,
less track, less enjoyment. How do we resolve that one?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so certainly, we don't want to reduce the enjoyment of the track. I think the thing with this reserve is there's a kind of a limit on space with how many uses there are. So we're wanting to really maximise the space. And so with the idea of realigning the track, we want to make the track more immersive. So possibly with like a little bridge over a wetland area and some planting around, so people, you know, kids can actually feel quite entertained on the track, even if it might be, you know, a little bit smaller. Yeah, and in terms of the risk that he identified next to the path, certainly we take that feedback, and you know, we can look at maybe just widening that gap between the track and the path. You know, that's easy enough to do, create that buffer zone. And in terms of the steaming bay, yeah, so certainly we're happy to take that feedback on and really look at our design and how we can incorporate those, you know, if it needs a turning circle or something like that. And in terms of the alignment of the track, how we need to angle things on the ground specifically. Yeah.
I think it's important to note as well that there's a concept, and when it actually comes to the actual physical design of it, we'd 100% have them involved in that along the way. And as they mentioned, like this, they've got some pretty key skill sets there that we want to have them involved anyway. So we might be able to do like the basic concrete plinth form and stuff, but then how do we then help work that piece of the puzzle project together as well with them? So yeah, we'll definitely be there to support, and wouldn't just be there throwing them out with the baby water.
No, 100%. And I can, having sat on a few of the meetings, I know that you've really prioritised how do we make actually this an even greater asset for Cambridge. So I can respect that. And my conversations with Bruce, they're very open to finding solutions, and hopefully at that next detailed design, all those tricky things can be nutted out. I had a question about the multi-purpose building in relation to the tracks. Is that kind of the only place it could be? Is it, or were there other, you know, potentially swapping out with where the wetland is? You know, could it have been squished over to that side of the domain and leave the loop in the steaming bay where they are? I mean, I know a few of the early concept designs didn't actually kind of, they plonked, it's been there for a while. Is there any flexibility in where that might be located?
Yeah, certainly, you know, we're happy to take feedback if people don't, if there's not a preference for it being where we've proposed. Absolutely, we can look at other alternatives. I think the rationale for that location was just its centrality, if that's a word, to the site.
I think it is, yeah.
So just keeping it really connected with everything else that's going on, and keeping it close to the croquet club, and so they can use the facilities and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Molly. Any other questions?
Thank you. In the master plan document, it says that the master plan was come about because individual clubs had a desire for investment on the site and put in multiple submissions. Could you tell me what those submissions were and which clubs are from, or kind of a bit of detail?
Yeah, cool. There were, I think, almost every club on the park came to the last long-term plan with an individual submission, and they were all asking for little bits and pieces. So we had the train lads. I'm pretty sure netball were involved in that. We had croquet, petanque, looking for more pists to go in there. I think croquet might have submission as well. Yeah, and lots of community feedback for a playground there as well. So we kind of already knew that we were looking to do a playground in that space eventually as well. So we just want to make sure that we got everything in the right space for the long term if council was going to start to invest in some of these things. So I don't think any club got any funding through that round, but there's agreement from the members that would do this piece of work first to help inform future development.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. For example, the train, he didn't mention anything about more investment. What were the particular things they put forward in their proposal?
I think they were wanting some more roofing or you stitch my memory there, Andrew, 3 years ago. But yeah, I think it was more roofing and seating around the rotunda. On memory.
Actually, Brad, that's something Bruce spoke to me about on Sunday, was shade over where they're waiting for the ticketing area, which is that on the current plan? He's like, there's no shade. And I was like, I feel like if you told them it would have been there. There's so many numbers, it's quite like it takes off. Okay, so there is shade around the waiting ticketing area. Great, thank you.
And just following up, the cricket club, has there been any interest from them? I just see that perhaps the path encroaches on their current oval. It's quite a good area for cricket in the future.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we have spoken to the leader of the cricket club there. So we have kept the measurements wide enough to allow for a full cricket circle.
Yeah, one more question, it's just maybe more for education for me. It's a master plan to show vision for the future. It doesn't necessarily mean any of it's going to be built, or does it? Like, how does that work? Maybe the councillors could help me here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. So all of our projects need to go through a long-term plan process. So this will as well. But this then allows those clubs who have been part of the process to then go, hey, we've done this with the council. We're keen to take the next step and this investment sort of thing. So, and also the wider community. So it might be a case like, so through the Ahawaki sessions we've been having lately, I'm part of the World Cafe crew that are doing that. And, there's a couple of, there's a few high school aged kids on there, and they're like, we'd love a spot that we just go and hang out and not be judged and feel bad. So they were talking about this like sort of covered court area / hub that could be. They were like excited as about that, like just providing that sort of space. So lost my train of thought now, but I don't know if
That's good. Yeah, that does answer my question. I just heard Ruth say one thing at the start. She said, don't rip up everything. We don't need to spend the money. So like, I was just wondering, there's been like in the survey, perhaps there's kind of no questions. Do you want the domain to be improved or not? It's more about if it was improved, what do you want? So do you get any feedback? People saying, oh, we don't need that, or is that a council decision at a funding rate? How does that work?
A little bit of both. I mean, generally people like improvements.
Yeah.
You always get a handful of people that, roads and water pipes, that's all we need for council. So you always going to get those members of the community. But, by creating spaces like this is activating our community. This is what brings people to our towns and cities to live, play and work, So that's what we are trying to achieve by creating these vibrant places. And then, in terms of how it gets invested, then just whichever club or whichever, if a community feels strongly about activating a particular space, then we'll prioritise that.
Thanks.
And to that point, Andrew, the April kind of community engagement was the opportunity for people to say, nah, leave it as is, or yes, we'd like to see more. And when you look at the survey respondents, overwhelmingly people wanted to see more. It wasn't, you didn't get a lot of people being like, nah, she's sweet.
Right.
So I think that what they heard from the community at that time, which is, informed these next steps.
Yeah, that was the information I was seeking. Thank you.
And before we go out to consultation on this, we've gone to a service delivery committee. So if they were hearing things that we weren't hearing, there was opportunity there to go, actually, no, we don't need to go that at all. So.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the team? Yep.
So on the just for the train guys, like a master plan can sit there for quite some time, obviously, and if a master plan gets approved, but they've sort of got questions about more sort of technical nature, like radiuses of curves, etc., that they're sitting there going, this isn't going to work, this isn't going to work for several years while this sits there as a master plan. What do you think of that? Do we need to go a little bit further on some of those issues rather than just leave that club hanging?
So we can link back in with them and just maybe get alongside them and say, hey, look, this is a concept and we can work closely together when it comes to implementation. But if there's a couple of really big showstoppers now, then we can get alongside and say, hey, what's really not going to work for you here? And we can just try and maybe tie it up again. So I think that's probably something we need to do as part of this process before we go back for final adoption. We'll hook back in with them. To maybe your point, and a little bit of your point too, Andrew, in terms of timing, I'm sure you're all aware of the financial constraint that council is going to be in this next long-term plan. So chances are that we won't be getting a lot done in the next few years. So it's going to be staged over a whole 10-year plus program. So this gives us the steer to work from going forward. Doesn't mean it's going to be all done straight away. We do have funding in year one as it currently stands for the playground, because the playground is failing to the point that we've only got probably we've only got months before we get some failures that we have to remove pieces of equipment from. So that is key as part of our annual program of work.
Yes, Mark?
Thank you. That funding would include a water fountain? That's a damn good idea.
Yeah, for sure.
To the toilet issue, so I've received a letter from Pip Wallace, who Ruth Strawbridge referenced, which she will submit to you guys directly. Anyway, you've had some conversations with Pip. You learned from Pip, didn't you? She was your lecturer.
She was my lecturer.
Yeah. So it's yeah, a really helpful insight. Again, she lives on Scott Street. So for them, the toilet locations are obviously a big issue. Is that, once again, this is not detailed design, this is concept, this is master plan. So we can still massage things around. Is that there's some flexibility with relocating that parking and that toilet?
Yes, absolutely. We can look at possible other locations for that.
Okay. And would the toilet be included in the next playground upgrade in year 1 of the next LTP?
It's a separate bucket of money, but we're
Okay.
hoping to align the two projects together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Mike.
Can I just ask Brad a wider question? Because I've only been there a year. There's been quite a bit of this master planning going on, and it's come through this community board, like we've had the cemeteries, for example. And that, I think I'm right, is in the current LTP, the funding for the master planning, right? That's how this has happened. Yeah. So just with your sort of your broader Cambridge hat on, what are you sort of, what, in terms of master planning, what's sort of still to be master planned in your world?
Well, Mike, it's endless. We've got a lot of things. So we know that we've got a lot, not only master plans, but also reserve management plans, and they often then trigger or can be part of a master plan as well, or sorry, inform a master plan. So our reserve management plans are legislative requirements, which we need to do. Master plans are not, but so yeah, so over the next little while, we'll be starting to ramp up some of those reserve management plans. And so for example, there's one for the town belt, there's omnibus for different neighbourhood parks, or there's a whole range. Some of them are quite specific to have their own one. Can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but yeah, we've got a lot of that work to do, which will then maybe inform future master planning. There was another project which we were hoping to get off the ground with the Northern Town Belt. Again, similar to the last long-term plan, they all came individually to the long-term plan process and submitted wanting a whole lot of capital investment, some of it quite major. And again, we sort of said, well, actually we need to just take a bit of a pause and just make sure everyone's on the same page there. So that didn't receive funding to do a master plan for that. We've tried to do it off the cuff a little bit with the stakeholders. Then we've had a good handful of hui with them. We're at a point where Hautapu has sort of progressing something for their own site, Memorial Park there, but we're hoping to be able to ensure that they're having conversations with all the neighbours, and that it will be able to flow through, and potentially we can add on in the future to the work that they're currently doing. Because yeah, that's a really key piece of link in that network of town belt for all the active sports parks and things. So yeah, there's plenty. There's nothing else currently budgeted in Cambridge for master plan, apart from the reserve management plans. Are you with me?
Waipuki in the reserve management plan queue or not?
Not in the current long-term plan. So that already had a master plan done. It was formed prior to me starting, which was February 2019. So we've started to progress some of those actions. Actually, we've actually got quite far along actually in some of those things. We have put into the business case for the next long-term plan to pick up another master plan in Lincoln, 859 Mongatotiri Road, and what we can do there. You'll be aware of the financial constraints. We're having to do a bit of a juggle at the moment, so that's not straight away. But that will eventually link in the Soccerway from Mata River Domain through to Waipuki eventually.
So just to my fellow board members, we're always talking about getting things on the long-term plan. Master planning is part of that.
It's the first step.
Yeah. So things you want to influence,
Mm.
keep thinking about it, keep talking to these guys about where priorities are.
Mm.
And yeah, how much does a master plan cost roughly?
Depends on the level of engagement. It's tens of thousands to do it well.
Thank you, Mike. I had one last comment about the public engagement this time round. Am I right in understanding that the public engagement was just that plan presented to the public to comment on, with obviously the feedback, the prompt, the questions? Is that right?
Yes, so this time around, yeah, so we have presented the draft plan and provided the survey and had the drop-in session.
Yes, yeah.
And yeah, that's the
Okay, cool. Because at the drop-in session, it was really, I mean, if anyone had questions, it was critical they were there, because the plan was so quite technical. And so I was just thinking about future community engagement with this type of master planning. And it's, you know, beautiful work, it's amazing work, but it's actually reasonably difficult to digest in terms of, oh, what does this number correspond to? It almost would have been helpful to have each of those key action points on an A4 sheet of paper. You know, we pull out, this is what the multidisciplinary building looks like, and this is how it relates to this. And we pull out the playground changes, and this will include A, B, C, and we're going to pull out the PO and the harakiki and the planting. And I think, because when I initially approached the community, they were like, I love it and I hate it. I'm like, oh, okay, so what do you hate about it? And they just had a complete misconception of what was actually happening in the plan. And so I thought that would be something for future master planning, is it worth spending a little bit of time recalibrating the delivery of that information to make sure it's properly synthesized and understood. And obviously people can come to drop-in sessions, but you know, we're relying on a 1% of people who read that plan to probably do that. So that would just be for going forward. And certainly when you take it to the design phase and the other phases down the track, I think we probably need to extrapolate that into maybe a slightly more digestible system. Yes. Last question.
Thanks, Chairperson. The Cambridge Top 10 Holiday Park is on a lease there. Obviously, in the long-term future, that might become a part of a public space if the council so decides. Should that be part of a long-term master plan, or is that obviously not strategy to one day convert that to public space?
So we acknowledge that they are on the park, but we didn't incorporate this into the master plan because they're an anchor tenant for a long time. So yeah, if such a time that they were to relinquish their lease, then we'd incorporate that into the park. Potentially, I mean, there's a myriad of different options of what we use, like whether the council continue the operation or whether we reverted that to parklands. Yeah, that'd be a conversation for another day. They do have as my understanding, a reasonably long-term commercial lease on that site. If we just make a couple of other clarifications, thanks, great for your feedback. That's really good to know for next time. And also just mentioned, Councillor Coles, you mentioned about the public being able to speak to their submission. This is not a regulatory process, so there's no public hearing as part of this submission, as part of this consultative process. That this is more, we've come up with a draft, we're going out to the community to get any ideas or to see where it lands within. Staff will then be making changes based off that feedback and then present it back to council. There's no more engagement or hearing process as part of this.
Thanks for that clarification, Brad. That's great. Okay, thank you both. We need to speak to this. I just wonder, so these guys don't have to hang around for that deliberation. Can we hear from Bonnie or hear from him about the signage and then speak to things? Can we just put this motion on the table and then go to our next items? They can speak to that. You happy to hang around? I don't know, guys. Yeah, that's great. Okay, if you guys are happy, it's okay. Okay, so we have a recommendation in front of us, team, that is essentially following the master plan survey, answering those questions. I guess the first question is, do we want to submit in that format, or would we like to submit in a different format? And then we go from there. Yes, Mike.
What's the timing of this, Brett? When's this going back to council?
4 days or something. 2 days?
Yeah, so submissions close on Friday, but we're looking to go back to council in December.
I've got to say, when you're sitting around council, like, you know, a local park, you kind of rely on the local community because you get these for Te Awamutu too. And I mean, I don't live there. I don't really know how they work. You go and visit them, but don't underestimate the impact of what you say on this. Okay?
No, yeah, I think we should take it very seriously. So the question being, are we better? Do we want to follow that survey feedback form, or do we want to draft our own comments in response to what we've heard tonight and conversations we've had with the community?
Can we do both?
Sure.
Can we just use that as a starting point?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. So if we would, are you happy for that, Karen? If we just work our way through that, and then we can answer those questions and then come back to any additional things we'd like to say in reference to what we've heard. Great. Okay. So let's work through not our details, but the design principles. Do you agree with the proposed design principles of hauora, whānau, whanaungatanga, whakapapa, huarahi, and taiao? Are we a yes, a partially, or a no?
I would say yes. That section sounded really good to me.
Thank you. So, Mike.
I keep out of it, okay? Because we get the second go, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, you're going to keep out of it. Okay.
And tap that with
Sure.
Okay, great. Andrew?
I was just partially, I just think maybe another principle would be practicality.
Yeah.
No, I'm just serious. These are quite holistic values, but just like the engineer
Great.
spoke and the toilet spoke.
Yeah, great. Well, why don't we go with a yes, since that's probably the majority, and add a comment that practicality would be a similar principle of reference. Okay, Leamington Domain layout. Do you agree with the proposed layout for the domain? This is a big one. Yes, partially, or no. Are you happy to just keep going around the room, then we can fish it out? Lana?
At the moment, partially.
Yep. Sue?
Yeah, at the moment, partially.
Partially. Can you just kind of leave them on as long as you're not having whispering conversations in between? Andrew?
Yeah, partially. I was a bit remiss. I forgot to ask about the skate park as well and the state of that and need to move that. And then just, yeah, as the train track and the multi-purpose building are direct conflict. So that needs to be resolved.
You mean the covered skate rink that will be gone?
Yeah. I just didn't ask about this.
Feel free to just fire a
The
question.
plan,
to
the
these guys.
plan is
That's what they're here
the plan
for,
is to
just
build
ask
another
them.
covered netball court to this, perhaps to the side of the multi-purpose centre. To have one in the master plan. Sorry, is that current roofing not practical to have a covered sports court underneath it?
That covered, that will be coming down regardless. That's not seismic, but I think it's wind prone. Yeah, it doesn't have a long life frame left in it. It has to come down regardless.
I know that when I was growing up, Kim Kearns in the library, she was influential in getting the funds raised to build that structure for community use. So at the time, was it not engineered for wind? Or
No, it wasn't. I understand that it came second hand as well.
Building code has changed too in the last while.
Thank you. No, I didn't know that's good information.
Okay, so if we, mostly, well, let's stick partially, since we partially, and then what we would change, it's maybe not a change, but maybe it's a consideration of the Cambridge Model Engineering Society's needs. Yes, Lana?
And possibly the toilets and
Toilets.
or parking.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought those were fair points around not putting the angled toilet on a skinny street when everyone's essentially doing angled parking on the Wordsworth verge. Be a shame to lose that beautiful big green verge, but it probably makes more practical sense. So, yep, that's great. Anything else
Are we including the multi-purpose building in that as well
in this design?
as a question mark of placement?
Yep, I think that's fair. There is pros to it being central, right? So that you can sort of get to it from Scott Street, Wordsworth Street, in any way, and it's also close to the car park. So if people were hosting events and functions, there's a lot of
And it looks like it leads onto the netball court or overhangs the netball
it
court
does
slightly
there's
for them
some
to
connection
use.
with the club Hayes, their club rooms will be in there as well. So there's a lot, I guess, that works for that. But it's worth a question. We can put that on there. Anything else that anyone wanted to reference around that design? Yep, still on 3, just in terms of we partially support the proposed layout. Is there anything else layout wise that we were not clear on or unhappy with? Okay. I guess we could support the idea of creating more space between the train track and the learn to ride zone as well.
The pathway.
So where the learn to ride area, I think, is Bruce felt was too close to the actual where the train track goes.
Oh, okay. I thought he was meaning the pathway as a whole.
Oh, I thought he was referring to the learn to ride area. So maybe we should just clarify that.
Maybe
before we put
both.
it in. It could be both. What do you think, Brad? Was it?
Yeah, I was under the interpretation that was, well, my thinking was that, like what you said,
The learn to ride, yeah.
I think it's easy fix in terms of it
Yeah,
being, we can do a whole lot of treatment. It could be planting, it could be
yeah.
something along there.
Lots of ways to treat that. Great. Okay, anything else on the proposed layout? Anyone would
Yeah,
like to change?
that wasn't my interpretation. I don't mean to argue, but I just thought it was in general the track being too close to the path in quite a few locations.
Okay, both of those
Sorry.
can be addressed, so that's great. Anything else there, team? We've hit that, toilets, train tracks, and the multipurpose building were the main ones. Okay. Number 4, access and circulation. So do you support the proposed improvements to access and circulation within the domain? So this is, I guess, referring to the walking and cycling paths around it. Put around the room, Alana.
Yes, I think it looks really good, actually. It looks like a big improvement.
Great. So,
Yeah, same.
Andrew,
Question, is there a sort of a bike path or bike mobility link on Wordsworth to the cycle trail at the lake? Where does that connect through to
not
Shakespeare?
currently,
Or is likely to?
I think Wordsworth is the connection, isn't it? So, yeah.
So I don't think there's not a path there at the moment, but I think there's intention to put one in.
So just my corollary to that is just there's quite a few paths parallel to each other here, like on both sides of Wordsworth, inside the park, up and down Tennyson. There's actually a nice path, and then we're going to have one 10 metres away inside the park. There's a lot of paths. Is there a bit of a double up? That's my only point. Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah, I think they'd probably be serving 2 different functions. Once you're in the park, it's a way to get to the multipurpose building or around the cricket oval versus maybe being on the street.
I know when you're playing cricket and when you're chasing a ball to the boundary, you don't want to fall over a concrete path on the boundary. So that's probably just one thing about putting it right there on the edge of a cricket pitch.
Bonnie, how frequently is that oval used for cricket?
I've heard it's very well used on the weekends.
Okay.
And then there is a junior cricket club that use it regularly too.
Okay, cool. All right, so maybe it's our answer would be yes, we support, and considerations around the cricket oval boundary and the adjacent pathway. Is everyone happy with that? Okay, number 5, do you support the proposed improvements to the park's assets and amenities within the domain, such as seating, picnic tables, the bookable hangi pit and barbecue area, planting trees, shelter structure near right on trees? It's right there in the thing. Okay, and the provision of drinking fountains, bicycle racks and bins. Alana.
Yes, most of that looks pretty good to me. So just to confirm, the shelter structure for the trains, is that taking their ticketing away from the rotunda? Is it
No, so the shelter's just for rain.
just shelter? Okay, cool. I guess the only thing about the hangi put would be safety considerations.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, that would be something we'd have to think about at the time. Yeah.
Sue? Yes, and Andrew?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic sort of list of amenities you've put in there. So well done. I just question maybe the stormwater wetland area. Green space is a premium in towns and cities. Maybe we could utilise that as. I don't see a wetland need there at the moment. It does say in the master plan that because of the increased catchment area, I just wondered if that could be green space instead and utilised in the future as a sports ground or playground or train parking and not a wetland. Thank you.
Do you want to speak to that, Bonnie?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so absolutely hear what you're saying. I think we just need to be conscious of the risks with stormwater at that site. So there are some flood problems. So we just need to make sure we're not pushing water where it shouldn't go.
If I just add to that, there's also greater regulations coming on us as council now to treat our water before it leaves our site. So you'll see stormwater swells going up everywhere around the place as a way to do that. So this is one way that we can treat our water before it leaves our site.
Okay. I guess we should possibly improve and add in here the toilet location just to make sure it's clear as you'd class that as an amenity. If we're happy with that, so we can say yes with consideration of relocating the toilets to Wordsworth Street, depending on what the residents of Wordsworth Street think about that, of course. Cool, but really cool, the idea of bukuhangi pits and increasing some of that kind of community eating space is great. Yes, sorry, Brad.
I was just going to say on the toilet, so I think we've heard some really clear feedback that we need to have a look at the location of that toilet. The specific location that they mentioned probably makes it a little bit disjointed from where a lot of other activity will be. So we'll have a look at that.
Okay, so maybe better to keep it broad and say reconsider location of the toilets. Great, that's helpful. Thank you. Okay, number 6, community space in the multi-purpose building. Do you support the proposed multi-purpose building, including a bookable community space? Alana.
I think so. So Bonnie, you already said that the trains wouldn't have to pack up every time and that kind of stuff. So that's good. That's probably one of the main concerns about that space. But people are always looking for bookable spaces. So yeah, great if we can provide a bit more of that.
Thank you, Alana. Sue? Yeah. Yes, okay. Andrew?
I think it's a great idea. I just wondered if there could be some combination of the two, 18 and 29, the covered court and space. Could there be one multi-use facility?
Okay. Did you want to speak to that, Bonnie?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely happy to take that feedback. Yeah, as we get into the detailed design, we can look at those opportunities.
Yeah, I think, Andrew, I'd argue they serve two quite different purposes. The covered court being essentially an outdoor area with some respite from weather, whereas the multi-purpose building is a building which is going to serve local clubs and the community in a different way. So I'd argue there's still quite value in having them separately. I have always been a little bit question marky around this multi-purpose building. Like, I totally get how it solves the problem with the trains and the clubs, but I just am always a bit sad when we chuck buildings on reserve spaces. So I've always had a bit of a question mark around it and that, but I think it's one of those things where it solves the problem and it's better than having 4 different buildings scattered around the domain, and that's the main thing that's improving. So yes, we support that. Andrew, no?
Just with a covered court, it's on the opposite side to the current netball club and where they're focused. Is that a consideration that it's why you put it there?
Yeah, thank you. So we have talked to the netball club and they were happy with where we've proposed it. It's still relatively accessible if they'd like to warm up there or as they use it. We just thought that location was a little bit more preferable with the connection to the playground and just keeping it really visible during the day.
And it also serves not just netball, right? Like, it'll have multiple court markings on it. And yeah, so I think the netball will get to enjoy it, but it will serve the community in a more diverse way. And it's not for the netball. Am I right in saying that? It's not for the netball club.
Yeah, it's for everyone.
Yeah. Sorry, Andrew, did you have more questions to that? Are we happy with a yes on that one, team? Yes, Andrew? No, partially?
I think as long as you take my comments into consideration, I'm happy with what you decide.
Okay, so we'll go yes on that one. Did we want to put in query the location of it? Did we think that was worth more investigation, or kind of is it probably its best spot? Thoughts around that?
Yeah, I was happy with the answer provided there. That was good.
Okay. Alana, did you want to?
Just with the trains in mind, and maybe is there
Another location.
another location or a different orientation?
I guess the other thing to consider about this is the fact that this will be, if there is funding for it,
A long way away?
long way away and so much time to iron out a lot of this stuff. So I guess it's just like, in theory, this is a good idea. And there's lots that we can figure out down the track. And if you think about the size of Cambridge growing, I think we're going to need somewhere like this eventually. But, you know, maybe that track will be the same way it is for the next 10 years. And then this will, you know, so I wonder if a lot of this will come out in the wash over time with design and things like that. But I think it's a good point, Alana. So if we tick yes and say in conjunction with how we support the train track. Safety, number 7. Do please provide us with any further ideas you may have to improve safety within the domain. Alana, do you have any ideas?
Is there any provision for lighting?
Not that I think is in the plan, but happy to take.
Okay,
on that.
maybe around some of the key areas like car park, toilets, rotunda. I don't know if there's already some at the rotunda, there might be.
Not sure on that. Yeah, happy to take that if that's would make people feel
Do
safe.
public toilets not have lighting in reserved spaces?
Lighting's a double-edged sword.
Yeah,
Gives you the
You know,
perception of safety.
like moths to a flame.
So lighting does also cause shadows, and I know that Auckland City Council probably about 3 or 5 years ago took out a whole lot of their lighting in their parks because it created that perceived safety, but there's shadows where people are getting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So not to say we can't put lighting in, and it does have its place. I think the rotunda already does have some lighting from what I can recall. But yeah, we can look to activate some of those places with lighting. I mean, what I think, because we do have a bit of lighting in the current structure, and we were putting those on, sort of allowing people in the wintertime to activate themselves, play basketball, whatever in there. That was causing an issue for some of the residents late into the night. So we then put it onto a timer, which then sort of turned off about 9:30. So that, you know, calmed down from there and people go home. We then ran into issues with damage. People wanted to try and keep the lights on. So, but yeah, there's definitely a myriad of opportunities to look into that.
I guess safety things we should consider are the train tracks, proximity to the walking tracks and the learn to ride area and the cricket boundary.
Yeah, and even, I mean, the train track's a hazard itself when you play cricket, like if it's too close. So adding another path is also, just for sports people, kicking a ball around and run over a concrete path or track, it's pretty hideous.
It's pretty bad.
Just a note.
Just like running backwards, there's
Yeah.
like catch your ankle in a train track. This is one of the hazards of the Leamington Domain. Okay, so on to number 8. Do we want to do this ranking exercise, guys? Does this feel like something we'd like to do? No, don't have strong opinions. I don't know that I have strong opinions. Do you have strong opinions, Alana?
Probably the only comment there would be with regards to the sand play. I've had a couple of people mention, well, concerns about it being clean given the cat
Sand play.
population.
Yeah, and I would always be like pro water play over sand play any day. So maybe we just put number 1 on. Okay, maybe we do have opinions, guys. 1 to 8. Jumping, let's leave play experiences, but let's just maybe for the following play experiences, water play is number 1. Oh, flying fox, how important do you think that is? Okay, let's just put water play. Just put number 1 on water play. That's okay. We have no opinions about anything else.
I feel like we're a nice high area.
Yeah, and they take up a lot of space, eh? So you end up with one flying fox and nothing else for like 30 meters, and we're already a bit tight for space. Good call. Okay. Okay, do you support number 9, the proposed design themes for the playground, the Mara Gardens and the Tohu landmarks? Alana?
Yeah, I thought some of those elements were really cool, particularly the harakeke. I was actually a fan of the wetland area.
Yeah.
But yeah, looks good to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Alana. Sue? Great. Andrew?
A playground is, I'm assuming, for kids, so I'm not, are they too worried about landmarks, or they just want to have fun and good time. So just that's a key criteria for them as a thing.
Okay, so that would be a yes. We don't have any objections to them. 10, universal design. We want to ensure the domain and its future play space caters to all ages and abilities. And then we can tick the ones that apply. I would preface this with just some conversations I had on Sunday at the drop-in, and I had just total opposite ends of the spectrum from people. So some people were like, there's nothing here for little ones, it needs to be all for little ones. The other one was like, there's nothing here for the older kids and everything for older kids. And I was like, okay, it's difficult to get it right. So, but let's go around and see, what your thoughts have been, Alana, and what you've heard from people.
Yeah, like you said, everyone wants something that caters to their particular age group, so it is difficult. There's not really anything currently for my little one, but she's also quite happy just rolling around in the grass. So water play would be awesome. Particularly along the lines of the Hamilton Lake one. That's amazing. But yeah, I guess catering for as large a group of different ages as we can. Okay, good.
Yes,
Yeah, I don't think we can. Sorry.
You're on. Just leave it. Just leave it on.
I don't think we can cater for everything.
Yeah.
I think, this is where, obviously some things people will just have to go to a different part
Sure.
to find.
And so where do you think this one caters for then? Like if we look at the 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 13, 14 plus, where would you think this Leamington probably is more focused?
I think it's probably, the 5 to
Yeah,
12.
that's where it would sit now, I think, hey?
Yeah.
But it would possibly be nice to have the 0 to 4 in the mix as well, I think.
Yeah, it is good to have that. It gives them, and there's always been that there. People are used to it.
Okay.
I think, and probably, just see how it goes. But people adapt very quickly.
Yeah.
And kids do too.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll get your little 4-year-olds thinking, well, excuse me, I'm a big person.
I can do that slide.
I can go there. I don't care if it says 9.
Okay, thanks, Sue. Andrew, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with the comments made. New Zealand's population is rapidly aging, and for the next 0 to 30 years, most of the population will be over probably 50 years old. So I think you've got to just keep that in mind. I think it already does cater that. It's aesthetic, it's flat, it's got good access. So just older people as well as younger people.
Okay. So if we were to choose something, because it's probably helpful for the team, currently I think it caters to 5 to 9. To your point, Alana, 0 to 4-year-olds, you're right, they actually don't need much in the way of play equipment. And when you put teeny person in play equipment in, it's of no interest to anybody else. So it's an interesting point. Do you put in the teeny person play equipment, or do you put in a small stream, which they will play in for hours? So are we, and to your point, Sue, little kids will just do stuff anyway. So do we want to say the 5 to 9? Do we want to add in 10 to 13? I feel like I occasionally. Oh no. Oh, your child. Gary. Should have spoken up sooner. Sorry, team. Okay. All right. Let's scrap that. What I would, if I don't know, it was a great conversation, but you just all let me run with it, guys. But this is a point that everyone did bring up or everyone spoke to me about on Sunday, was who the playground catered for, which I'm sure you guys have thought through anyway. But should we, to that point of water, could I recommend that you guys look at the Ian Potter Children's Garden in Melbourne? Oh, you probably have, but their water feature, have you looked at their water feature particularly?
I've had a look online at that playground. It's like so cool.
It's amazing, but their water feature is quite lovely because the Hamilton Garden one's amazing, but there's lots of moving parts and it often is not working. But this one is really simple in that there is just a start and an end, and it recirculates, but it means that it just is always working, and kids take little boats and float them down the stream, and it's just kind of would be quite cheap to install compared to that type of stuff. So it's worth having a look at as another type of water feature. Hey, so sorry for letting us down the garden path there, guys. I hope you can forgive me for that. And do you have a child? Okay, that's irrelevant, but I think it's worth noting, a couple of people spoke to me on Sunday about accessible playground equipment, which I'm sure you guys have thought about as well. So whether or not we need to reference that, we may not do in our submission. Any thoughts on that?
I think there was a carousel already mentioned with accessible
walk on one,
possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was happy to see mention of accessibility with the toilets and possible changing and the pathways being accessible. So that's really good to see it coming through.
Cool. Okay, so that's the end of the, oh no, now we've got the priorities. Do we want to do this priority thing, guys? It's just hard to rank when you've got 5 different people's opinions on this, is my thoughts, and whether or not we can share information in a another way. Does anyone have any opinions on that? Do we want to do the ranking, or do we want to share in a different way? Yes, Andrew?
Currently Leamington, I feel, doesn't have a centre, and I feel that the sort of the design here and the elements to it make it really a great community building thing that you mentioned, Brad, before. So to me, as a multi-purpose facility or events sort of centre, to me, is quite a high priority in the design.
Okay, so you see the multi-purpose building as being up there, because it probably is. Yeah, do you have any opinions, Alana? Yeah. Okay, and Sue?
Yeah, I think, and I think actually it does serve more than just Leamington.
100%.
I think, you know, you get a lot of people, you know, where are we going for a playground experience with the kids?
Yeah.
And they are going over there. So I think it does, it's a really important thing. You know,
Okay.
as much as we'd like to think, oh yeah, the Cambridge kids, the side will just go stick there. And the Leamington ones will stick there, but they won't.
Okay. So ranking might be a little bit tricky in that case, and I guess it will be largely come down to cost and funding at the end of the day in terms of what can be funded in the long-term plan. Hey, but perhaps we could note that the multi-purpose community and club building will be a valuable asset. I think a drinking fountain is obviously something that people have expressed strongly about, so I think we can support that as being something that people have strongly expressed, and delaying disrupting the trains for as long as possible, potentially in
Yeah,
terms of time
definitely.
frame, and upgrading the playground is obviously a priority as it's already got funding, so that's number one anyway. So maybe that we would pick those out as some key things, and I would say perhaps the shade for the trains as well, the ride on trains as being something of a priority. So if we were to perhaps pick out things that we felt when the next round of funding came through, that hey, this is what's happening, perhaps those would be in the mix.
Sorry, did you already say planting for shade as well?
I know I just said the shade stuff, but we can add planting for shade in that
Yeah,
mix
I
as
think
well.
so.
Yeah, 100%. Do we see the toilet relocation as being critical? It's a nice to have, but not critical right now. Okay, and probably seating and picnic tables to me feels reasonably critical too. There's not a lot of seating around there, and if you're upgrading the playground, I mean, it would probably come hand in hand with that anyway, wouldn't it? Okay. Yes, Sue.
No, I was just thinking too, we've got to make sure that we still allow that this precious rotunda. We don't want to have it in say 5 years' time saying, oh, my golly, it needs a good clean. We need to do some work.
So just looking after it, maintenance of it, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, I know there is a group that use it, but it's quite a small group.
Yes,
and
yeah.
I think we've got to allow that.
Was
Yeah.
heritage listed anyway, right? So it's
it is.
it is,
but
yeah.
It's you know,
It's a
probably
precious
of the,
one.
You know, there's only about 2 or 3 in the whole country that are of that
Mm.
status. So I think we really need to make sure
Okay.
that it's
Looked after.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe
kids climb on the roof of it all the
Yeah.
time at the moment. Yeah,
sounds dangerous.
yeah.
Okay, in terms of reading this back, are you able to read us where we've got to, Kieran? Would that be okay?
Given
this is shot. Hopefully I've done this
You're
right.
so sorry,
So,
I'm typing
the
while we're
community
talking.
board supports the proposed design principles, including but to include practicality as another design principle. Partially supports the proposed layout of the domain with consideration of the train track, multi-purpose building, skate park, toilets, angle parking, creating more space between this and creating more space between the cycle path and train track. Supports the proposed improvements for access and circulation with consideration around the cricket boundary and proposed pathways. Supports the proposed improvement to assets and amenities with consideration to the location of toilets. And what was the decision about the stormwater wetland area?
Yeah, I felt positive about its location and its purpose. I think Alana felt similarly. Do you feel happy about that, Andrew?
Because I have also got here, leave the stormwater wetland area as a green space.
Could you put some discussion was had about either?
Well, I guess it's
I-
not, we wouldn't put that.
That's
in our
not as-
submission.
not-
That's- We just
yeah.
have to come up with our final thought on that.
This is the decision you're making here, Andrew.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, up to you, Chairperson.
Okay, so how did you feel about the wetland?
Yeah, I mean, I think the wetland thing is good and
Okay,
we cope with, I mean, it's got a history of wet over there anyway.
yes,
So,
okay,
you know, we'll be realistic.
okay, all right, well, we'll just leave that in the, could you read it again, sorry?
So it supports the proposed improvement to assets and amenities with considerations to the location of toilets.
Leave it,
and
that
leave
sounds
it
good,
that.
yeah.
Supports the proposed community space in the multi-purpose building in conjunction with how we support the train track. Sorry.
Interpreting your own spelling.
Yeah.
Quite good.
With how how the council supports the train track. No,
Yeah, the
I don't know what I'm
Cambridge
saying.
Model Engineering Society's requirements.
sorry, say that one again.
The CMES, Cambridge Model Engineering Society, requirements to operate safely and effectively.
Safely. Effectively. And then there was some discussion about the covered space being part of the multi-purpose building, but then you moved away from that. Is that correct? I just need to confirm that. Okay, so I won't improve that. Provides the following further ideas on ways to improve safety, lighting around key areas, including parking, toilets in the Band Rotunda, and the proximity of tracks and pathways to the train tracks, pathways, and the cricket and the cricket oval.
And I think it's maybe if we just, with the lighting one, in regards to what is actually the safest option, just consideration around lighting rather than saying we think there needs to be lighting, because we actually aren't experts on safety improvement. So your consideration regarding lighting, and if it's hey, this is not a good thing to do, then we're not going to fly a flag for it.
I'm just thinking, but.
You're on, you're good.
The having some actually pedestrian crossings on both those two streets,
Oh, yes.
because it's diabolical.
Okay, so that would be, I mean, that's for the transport team
Yeah, but I just
separately,
think,
but
you
maybe
know,
it's,
we're going to do it.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah, we do need to have some, you know, both Scott and
Yeah.
Wordsworth, we do need to have something that
Okay.
stops them.
Is everyone happy with that? Some reference to pedestrian crossings for safe access to the park? Okay, thank you, Sue.
All righty, we didn't rank the play experiences, but we did rank number one as water play.
Water play instead of sand play.
Supports the community board supports the proposed themes for the playground. Again, universal design, water play, and accessible equipment for all abilities.
Yeah.
It came up, I think.
Yeah.
Ranks the master plan priorities as follows: multi-purpose building with as a valuable asset, drinking fountain, delaying the disruption of the ride-on trains, shade for ride-on trains, planting full shade, seating and picnic tables, and general maintenance of the Band Rotunda.
Is there anything anyone wants to change in that?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's in order though, in terms of our priorities, and perhaps we say, oh, you have said with the first being the highest.
Well,
It's
there we are.
perhaps
We can remove
in no
that.
particular order. Because I'm not sure we'd all agree on that order, and therefore I don't think we should say it's in order. Just say these are identified as priorities. Okay. Is there anything we feel we haven't covered in response to what we've heard from the community and what we think needs to be included in this submission, in this particular answer Q&A format? So we've talked about, I do wonder if we need just a statement that says, you know, we've heard from conserved residents and the CMES, and have included some of their feedback in our submission. We would hope that, you know, there is constructive work towards solving those issues. Like, do we want to put something like that in there? That's beyond just the Q&A format. Okay. Do we want to draft that up after the meeting? Do we need to do that now?
We can do that after the meeting.
Okay, let's do that
We've
up.
got a very strong indication of where you want to
Okay.
go.
So we're happy that we do that after the meeting, because that'll take us a few minutes and we can work on our vocabulary then. Okay, great. So in that case, we can move to receive this report and put our submission in. All right, so the recommendation is that the Cambridge Community Board receives this report and completes the Leamington Domain Draft Master Plan Survey, which we've done with the following feedback, which we will add one more thing onto at the end of this meeting. Do I have a mover for this? Happy to move. Thank you, Lana. Seconder. Thank you, Andrew. All those in favour? Aye. Moved and seconded. Thank you. Okay, that was juicy, wasn't it? Okay, on to community services, signage, suite and dual naming. Over to you guys.
Kia ora, thank you. Thanks to Brian for drafting the report for me. I will take the lead on the kōrero as it was a project I kicked off in my former role, and now we're starting to move into its implementation. So we're here this evening to give you an update on our signage project. It includes adding Māori name and Te Reo Māori text to our park signage. I know that you have interest in this space. I think Sarah Ulmer and I think maybe a few others have been in a couple of times in terms of some of our wayfinding signage around our town belt in particular. So yeah, know that you have an interest here. So the project recognises the importance of Te Reo Māori and honours our obligation to Te Tiriti o Waitangi. We're working with Mana Whenua to establish names and celebrate the rich cultural heritage we have in Waipa. So the first names we're sort of looking to formalise are Whare Marama and Waipuki. Waipuki has been on Waipuki for a long time, but has never actually been formally given that name. But Mana Whenua have provided us that assurance, and we'll go to the next stage of gazetting it. Whare Marama is a new reserve off Rotorangi Road. I can't remember which road it's actually off, but yeah, small little park there with a whole lot of history where women would go and you know, it's a sort of birthing place for
Yeah.
so it has a link
Yeah.
there.
Cool.
Also in terms of their menstrual cycle
yeah,
as well. So,
You've talked about that before, so I think.
It's the birthing centre.
mm.
And it would be really good to have the story told. It sort of tells it with a sign, but nobody knows about it.
It will be, yeah. So there is plans to further do that separate to this. So this project is primarily identification signage and wayfinding signage, and sort of kicked off initially in a few LTPs ago of trying to get more wayfinding onto the town belt. Yeah, so subsequently, Mana Whenua will continue to provide us names, and Ngāti Korokikau and Ngāti Haua have provided us quite a few names already, which do want to go through the formal process of going back through Ngāti Tūpo Waipa just for ratification, but they'll be adding a Māori name to parks with an English name. So an example that I use quite commonly here is Aoraki Mount Cook. You know, it rolls up quite naturally now, and it'll be a case of, as we transition our signage, something similar. So we assessed the project against our significant engagement policy, And the main assessment, or the main thing that was flagging there was our need to ensure mana whenua were comfortable and engaged in this process. Obviously, they're providing us the names, so there's no further consultation required for the project. But we will work with the individual leaseholders and people that are on the different parks as those sort of roll out, just to inform them along the way. And then for any future names, instead of coming to this forum, we'll just probably provide those names to you via the Friday mail out by way of communication to you. But yeah, exciting project. I know Mana Whenua are really keen to see this roll out, and we hope to have those first couple of signs. I was hoping before Christmas, but the time is running away. It's pretty quick. But yeah, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Brad. Any questions? Yes, Mike.
Just can you run us through where the four are? I don't know where Waipuki is. The other two.
So Waipuki, Whanemana, as I said, just as you're driving out on Otungi Road, I think it's like Sea Change or Sea Breeze.
Yes,
And
change.
so it's just down tucked in that subdivision. Matakitaki is in Pirongia. That's really significant cultural site, a lot of history there. And then Tūrata's in Kiki.
People were coming from all over. It's 16th, 17th century.
Oh, yeah, great.
Yeah, it's really old. And we're good to have some signage there because there's nothing there that says what's it. I might take people down the sign, just there.
Thank you, Sue. Yes, Alana, you had a question?
Probably not so much a question as I think it's great. Well done. I did think it was a little bit unfortunate with some of the communications, particularly on Facebook. I think possibly how things were worded garnered a bit more negative comment than needed to be. I think the biggest comment was around what a waste of money. But I think that's just because people didn't understand that it was going to be, as these things were needing a replacement anyway. So maybe just a little bit of consideration from that team going forward. Not just with this, but there's a few other times that I go, so I don't know if you want to pass that on. And if you are sending us through the names at some point, could you give us the meaning of the names when you do that? So I, for one, find that really interesting, but it's good to be able to share with the public as well.
Particularly because there's often a story behind the names, right? Like it's not a direct translation of the location. So we'd love to have some more knowledge of that.
Yeah, I just thought we've got the sculpture by Frank Graham about the expressway. Have we included that?
So eventually all of our parks will have a new name, but I think it's already got a Māori name. So any parks.
But there's no signage.
Oh yeah, so yes, there's a long-term game. This one.
10 years, you said, over 10 years to do them all.
Will be. Every park will have its new signage up.
Thanks,
I
Brad.
think it's more than it needs to sign because nobody knows it's there.
Thanks, Sue. Any other questions, Andrew?
I just had some discussions with members of the community, and they were concerned about the ability to pronounce some of the signs. So I'm all for it, and they were too. They were just hoping that sometimes that consideration is made with the names proposed. And also we had a discussion, and it just said in some cases the English alternative is may not be required. Like we're being very nearly woke that we've got to have both, but like most of the regions surrounding our town are in Māori names, so it doesn't have to be both. We felt that we're more than happy to support a Māori only alternative.
Yeah, thank you. So that's the only option. So when we have a new park come on board, we'll be going through our naming policy, which could have just a single Māori name, or it may have a dual name. So yeah, by all means, we won't be adding a name to just a sign that's got a Māori name. Yeah. So Waipuki will remain just Waipuki. Yeah.
Thank you. Forgive my ignorance. What does gazetting mean when you're gazetting a name? Okay.
So the Gazette is like the official newspaper of the country. And so
Cool.
Who read it? Who read the
Should,
there's all kinds of stuff
Should
on
I?
there.
is it online, Mike? Okay, all right. Sorry, Bonnie, carry
No, it's
on.
okay. It's very boring. It's so the Reserves Act requires us to get delegated endorsement and then gazette the name in the by notice.
Cool. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, in that case, why don't we move to the recommendation that the Cambridge Community Board receives the report of Bonnie Lewis titled Community Services Signage Suite and Dual Naming, and acknowledges that the Cambridge Community Board will be informed of new names via Friday mail out. Would we like to add an amendment with the accompanying meaning and or story where applicable? Is that okay? Or do we just tell you that and that's fine?
You know, we'll try and provide a little bit of context
If
around
there's
those
some-
names as well. So
Maybe
it is
new
important to
names
note that
and context is probably better than what
that
I'd said.
all IP associated with the names and the story behind it remains with Mana Whenua.
Sure.
So just be what we can share. Yeah.
When you say, does that
it's
mean that if there was something shared with us, we wouldn't be able to share that with others in terms of the
No, not necessarily.
IP
So
or?
it's more that so they're providing these names and the
Yes.
context behind it for
Yes.
this purpose. If we're to use it for another purpose,
Yeah,
that we need to go back and talk to Mana Whenua about,
okay.
about sharing that content. So
Okay, so if you were to take that story and use it somewhere else, okay, understood. Thank you. Great. Do I have any movers? Happy to move. And seconders? I'm happy to second that. Haven't done anything today. And all those in favour? Right. Great. Okay, we're moving on to the Treasury report. Hey, thank you guys so much. We appreciate it for your time and knowledge. Go and have some dinner. Cool. Okay, so Treasury report. Did anybody, do you want to speak to this, Karen?
I have nothing to say to it. Just if anybody has any questions, hopefully.
Nothing to say.
Yeah, they're accountants, not spellers.
Yeah, where do you see these? Oh, really?
Reduce.
Oh. Just like I get what they're trying to say, so I don't. Kia ora. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, we'll just let it slide. I did wonder, this is some of the pop-up garden expenditure that hasn't happened, whether we should be returning those funds at some point. That's been committed but not expended. So obviously now we've got the pop-up edible garden resolution number 5/23/23 for $300, which is now as a purchase order at Amber Garden Centre, so the Guardians can go and use that, but they're we're not going to need that 35 and that 60. I don't know. It would have been something I bought, and whether or not it's been, we got reimbursed, who cares? Let's just return it. And then 35.60 to be precise, Karen.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm ready. Yeah, pop-up edible garden. Yeah, 35.60 project, and the Cambridge Community Public Garden is 60. So I thought may as well return that if everyone, whether we do that today or how that, I don't know how that works.
Well, I'll pull together a report. Somebody will pull together a report and bring it to the next meeting.
Okay, great. Any other questions on the Treasury report?
Just the Cambridge Christmas tree light. So that's our allocation for this year, should we need it. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, that's yeah, in case something breaks or
Yep.
whatever happens, and to cover the cost of the electricians installing it.
Cool.
Usually
Okay,
covers, yeah.
Thank you.
great. I'm happy to move that, that we received the report. Any seconders? Thanks, Lana. All those in favour? Right, I've not been following my wee thing here. See, Treasury report. Okay. Community board project funding. This is you, isn't it, Karen? This one.
I'd just like to take my report as read, and if there are any questions.
What have I just done? Any questions on this one, team?
It's not a question, that's just a correction. Just an option 2, disadvantages. I think we just need to remove the not. So we'll be satisfied.
Oh, you put that in an email. Option 2, the risk. Award and
So
cost
family requesting correction to the Lukenwa storyboard
will
will
not
be satisfied. Yeah.
That's a disadvantage,
It is a disadvantage.
but it's under option
That they'll be
2 of
satisfied.
approve the storyboard.
That they will not. be
Oh, okay,
satisfied.
right. I'm
That
with you
is a
now.
Disadvantage.
Ah, okay. I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah.
You want them satisfied, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. My.
But it-
Yeah,
Okay.
but it says approve expenditure. So like the option is to approve expenditure. So there is no disadvantage because they would be satisfied.
Yeah.
It would only be a disadvantage if they wouldn't be
Oh,
satisfied.
true,
Does
okay.
that make sense?
We're on the same page?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it was option
Confusing
3,
me, yeah.
if it was option 3, then yes,
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we just delete that or let it fly. It's fine, you know what I'm saying. Do you know what the storyboard said before?
Yeah.
I was interested in what it's being changed from.
It was a spelling mistake.
Alright, they just didn't like the insinuation that Major Barakoff scoffed at the suggestion of using the letters.
Oh,
Where
okay.
they said that would not have been his intention.
Was that the
Um,
language used in the storyboard?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that's where the jokingly referred to instead of scoffed.
Was seriously considering using the letters offered to him by the New Zealand engineers. Okay, he likened the idea to scale. Okay,
So it's not a
The
major
jokingly
change.
requested.
That's
Okay.
why we can fix it with just a sticker.
sticker. Nice.
And the sticker's a permanent solution.
Unless we're going to reprint the signs.
They only got for a couple of weeks each year.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't get.
Yeah,
too
so that's fine. It's a proper, vinyl one and it'll fit in with everything that Cas Graphic Design's done it. So it'll look like
Undoubtedly,
it's
if I
in
don't
place.
like it, I'll come back to it.
No, well, one of them's actually recommended the wording. So
Good.
yeah,
Good. Okay.
everyone that needs to has approved it.
Right. And are we all happy with the Paper Plus voucher for our winner of the survey?
Yes.
Great. Which I have randomized a number. It was 198. So I will email that corresponding person to send that to them, which is cool. Okay, in that case, the Cambridge Community Board receives the report, approves the purchase of a voucher, approves the purchase of a sticker. Do I have a mover for that recommendation?
I'm allowed to. I will move. Yes.
Mike seconding. All those in favour?
I
Lovely. Cool. All right, team. We are on to board members' reports. Let's just slide around the room, please. Alana, you're first.
Yes, all right. Autumn Festival, we've had our AGM, which is good. All the existing trustees are staying on, which is excellent news. Program's looking really good, and we've recently had some positive responses to funding applications, which
Great,
is good.
that's cool.
Makes us feel a bit better about things. Still waiting on the Creative Communities one, but that's a little while away.
Okay.
For them to sort through those.
Okay.
One thing that you might be interested in is we're looking at progressing the public art within Cambridge with a mural.
Through the
Um,
Autumn Festival.
Through the Autumn Festival.
okay.
Yeah. So in discussions with landlords and artists at the moment.
Oh, cool.
For a work to be created during the festival. So hopefully that all comes together.
It's in March next year, right?
Yes, yeah, 15th to 24th of March. Sister Cities, a lot going on in that space still at the moment. And myself, Sue and Philip attended the porphyry and blessing of the wastewater treatment plant last week.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
great.
which was great. It was
Cool. Yeah.
really nice to be a part of and see what's
Awesome.
happening there. Yeah, so that's it from me.
Cool. Sue?
Tree Trust, as always, around planting furiously, trimming. They amaze me continuously. Yeah, they do all of that.
Mm.
Yeah, they have been very, very busy. And I think in time that they come up with an issue, they sort it out themselves, which is brilliant. We really owe them a great debt in
Right.
this town for what they do.
Cool.
It's huge. I haven't caught up with New Zealand.
Okay, no worries. Mike, council.
Yeah, and Philip, you jump in. I've done my usual thing and worked backwards through last month's agendas. And just to tell you things that'll be of interest. So council was 26th of September. That's where the public places bylaw that you guys commented on came into effect or whatever we did. The dog bylaw, I haven't got the exact, enacted is what I wanted to say, but it's a bylaw, so you don't enact it. Okay, but got approved. Let's just stick with got approved. So the dog bylaw and the public places bylaw both went through. Okay. Next came SPMP, Strategic Planning and Policy, on the 3rd of October. That's where the gambling one, the pokies one, which was status quo. CCB's position did not prevail. So a status quo is there. The council art collection, you were involved in that, so weren't you, the assessment and the art collection?
They sort of wanted to go through it, but it was really deciding what they had to keep.
Cool. So yeah, anyway, the resident perception survey benchmark came out. Now what that means, you're aware of the resident perception survey, and community boards were part of that. So you know, none of us did particularly well. The benchmark report is benchmarking against like councils, okay, and so it gives you a better idea. So if things are sort of, you know, heading in the wrong direction, you want to see if like councils are heading in the wrong direction. So there was quite a discussion about that, made it into the newspaper, but it sort of confirmed that the Waipa perception was, you know, we'd been heading in the wrong direction. Like councils had sort of similarly been heading in the wrong direction, but we were at the bad end of things. Okay, so we spent quite a bit of time sort of just talking about the, you know, what we can do about that, how we can use that data to inform things going forward. Okay, so yeah, community boards are similarly kind of implicated. Okay, so that's the point there. So if you want to have a look at the benchmark, it's in there in the reports. Okay, that was SPMP. Finance and corporate, this was just the other day, wasn't it? 2 days ago, yesterday. Out of this, something slightly interesting. Te Awamutu wants this a business improvement district. Okay, that's where the CBD asking for a rate to be imposed upon them, which can be used for business development type stuff. Okay, it's not enormous, it's only 50 grand, and so this it's an idea that's being surveyed amongst the CBD. Okay, and council agreed that the threshold would be if 60% of the respondents wanted it, if 60% of 30%, so 30% was a quorum effectively. Okay, so 30% people responded and 60% of them wanted it, a rate, it would go through into the consultation 10-year plan document. Okay, just a little bit interesting because there might be a bit of talk about it over here, depending on how that goes. Okay,
and it was quite a few years ago now, a good 10 years ago or so now. Suggestion, well, a survey and everything went on in Cambridge as well.
Yeah,
and that got declined.
Yeah. And Deputy Mayor Liz reported that her interactions with Kelly from the chamber are that there's no appetite for it. Yeah, but it's sort of an interesting thing for you guys to know about that's happening over there. Okay. Service delivery was also yesterday. The interesting thing out of this, there's a piece of land transport regulation about setting speed limits. Okay, we have to do some sort of speed limit kind of thing, and we have agreed to do that as part of a region-wide one with the regional council, okay, rather than going alone. So it's a region-wide thing to try and get consistency across the region, but expect changes in that space, like school speed limits, etc., more consistency about rural roads and that sort of stuff. So that's what's happening. Again, it's one that, you know, might create a bit of sort of talk in the local community. Okay, that was me. Anything else, Philip?
No, I mean, I think we covered it all, and there's a few events going on that you've probably all been invited to. Right, there's probably a few events that you've all been invited to the moon walk next week, and they've got the tomorrow night the workshop for the libraries and things like that too.
Oh, just probably one more thing, the rubber's beginning to hit the road on long-term planning. Okay,
yeah.
So it's all sort of the first budgets are beginning to be worked up. It's confidential at this stage, but just keep it on your radars, because when it comes out, Cambridge Community Board will have an interest in what, capital projects are in and out. So just it's first cut of the budget has to be ready to go to the auditors in December. So I'm not exactly sure if that means it goes public at that point. Is it later?
I don't think it'll be long. Well, probably March. Might be February. but-
Oh, is it that late?
In February.
Yep, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I might have
That's what
preempted
the
that. I
usual
thought when it went to the auditors, it would be going public. So
Just a question, Mike, about that survey. We haven't had any official feedback to the community board or consultation about that. So you say that we're included, but
yeah,
can you extrapolate on that?
I brought it up.
Are you referring to the comparing to other council or just the residents' perception survey? Because that did come to us
Yeah,
a couple of months ago,
2 or 3 months ago.
maybe the Friday mail out. And
And
you
I-
talked about it
I-
at a meeting.
We talked about it. I
Yeah.
talked to Joe.
Yeah,
Did we discuss it in this forum? I think we might.
yeah.
Yeah.
But So you're referring to that one, Andrew,
Okay,
or
sorry, I
the
just couldn't
comparison?
recall that. So that's
Okay.
my bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
it's all findable. Where do we find it, Kieran? For Andrew.
Yeah, it's just online.
Back through.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just Google
it's
it.
in SPMP agendas.
think it might be
I read the newspaper. I think
Yeah.
I got the gist of.
Yeah, but there was a
What you're saying.
specific page of the survey that related to community boards. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah, it'd be good to see that again.
Yeah, I think if you Google it, I feel like I found it just on
or
our website.
SPMP because it's in the full public agendas. I could find it for you.
It's
Just
not
to-
a fun read.
Or Kieran could find it for you.
Just a wee question. Do you know, are the same questions put to all the residents of the different councils?
That's a good question.
It's a third-party provider. We asked that question. So it's a third-party provider who does the survey.
Yeah.
It's not for the whole country, but in the benchmark, it was our provider
Mm.
who does similar councils gave us, similar councils.
Similar
were
councils that
applicable,
would have
and
had
I'm-
the
I'm-
same questions?
I think so. Anyone else know that? I'm thinking yes, but it should be in the benchmarking report.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Andrew?
I was away at a training course for the Cambridge Safe Communities Trust meeting.
Oh, cool.
No, I was away, so I didn't attend the meeting. I've asked
Oh.
Philip if he was able to comment on that. I do have the report, so I can read a bit from that.
Okay, you do that. Yep.
Eileen, who's the manager there, said she spoke at the council at the long-term planning meeting. So obviously wasn't there, but that was one of the actions for her to get more in front, and there was some positive feedback about that from the councillors, just the fact that she's been there.
Just on that, if I may, we're also inviting the Cambridge councillors to the monthly meetings to educate them more in depth of what we actually do, what the trust actually does, and so that may help with funding applications and things in the future. So Liz has been along, and Mike Pettit and Roger Gordon are coming along in November.
So those people have been named in that Eileen's report, so that's good. What was I going to say? I haven't been to a meeting, but I've been talking to people about there's a bit of an ongoing saga about the kiwi fruit and the shading. So I just follow that space. They said it's died down a little bit now, but there's still ongoing cases on that. So there are some issues, and I did alert the community board to another one that might be coming up. Yeah, just big issues in the rural sector.
Thanks, Andrew. Joe and I attended the fire stations kind of like end of year honorary awards, which was excellent. They brought up an issue that they've been having, which I wondered if you knew anything about. Gary, no, okay. So I was going to go to Martin Mould with this, but they said that once upon a time they used to maintain the fire hydrants, and council would pay them to do that, and then council stopped doing that. And so now they're no longer maintaining the fire hydrants. They've gone to some fires, and their fire hydrants have been far sealed over or difficult to find. They've had to get crowbars to free them up. So I'm going to follow that up with Martin Mould and just see what we decide that would be the right avenue, find out what the story is there. But beyond that, was fantastic to spend some time talking to these 5 volunteers, and do you guys know what the response time is for a truck out the door when they're after the signs? It's 2.5 minutes. Just blew my mind. So really cool. That was great. The other thing to update you on is the library feasibility study. So I've been on the working project group for that. I presented to them, as I mentioned in our messaging, they were really grateful for the engagement work that we'd done, and it was incredibly helpful for them. And so we'll just continue to go through that process, and tomorrow night is a stakeholder workshop. So that will be an opportunity to dive into a little bit more detail around what a library of the future might look like for Cambridge. That's it from me on that one.
I forgot, I went to the town hall meeting.
Oh, okay.
The AGM.
Great.
And that was very worthwhile. They're really working hard. Yeah, they really.
Done some good stuff.
They've got it, yes, and I think it was probably in the next year we'll see some
Cool.
real progress as to where they're going.
Great.
So that's good to
Okay.
hear.
So in that case, we'll move on to the, yes. Andrew,
Yeah, just
anything?
comment on the firefighter. I was talking to the firefighters
Oh,
and they
yes.
said they're actually, because their response time's so good, they're actually the first responders for, say, falls and trips and
Yeah.
even the rest homes around town.
They did the CPR. They're the
Yeah, instead
CPR
of St. John's.
responders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
CPR, that's
Yeah.
right, first responder
You
for that.
see it in the paper each week, they will say the number of calls that are not fire calls, and you know that's, they're picking up the old.
And I guess it's, anyway, we'll stay on top of it. Let's close the meeting because is there anything else anyone has attended? No, in that case, our next meeting is 6 p.m. Wednesday, 15th of November. I will close with a karakia and then we can move on to our workshop, if that's okay with everyone. Okay. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa. Te atawhai o tō tātou ariki o ihu karaiti, me te araha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga, ki te wairua tapu, ake ake,